Hello everyone, this is not my story, of course, but rather a super classic expose that is currently shaking the Chinese internet. Imagine you're having an affair and boom, you suddenly become an unwilling fashion icon for an entire nation. The story begins on a bustling street in Chengdu, China, a place known as the Holy Land of street photographers. Amid dozens of lenses lying in wait, a couple suddenly appeared and completely took over the frame. A young woman, glamorous in a pink silk spaghetti strap dress, walking side by side with an older man who looked dignified and composed. However, the drama lay not in their outfits, but in the starkly opposite attitudes the two displayed during those fateful 90 seconds. When the man realized he was surrounded by countless cameras, his expression immediately changed. He clearly showed fear, deliberately quickened his pace, and Zhu Dong let go of her hand in an attempt to distance himself from the woman beside him. In complete contrast to this furtive behavior, the woman, later known as Grace, wore a bright, confident smile. She did not shy away at all. Instead, she even stepped forward, grabbed his hand, and firmly interlaced her fingers with his in an extremely decisive manner. She even waved at the camera as if she were performing on a catwalk. This bold, territory-marking act right in front of TikTokers' lenses became the first knife that tore open the curtain of secrecy, turning what seemed like a romantic stroll into an inescapable career suicide before the eyes of millions of netizens. Shortly after the street walking clip began to spread at lightning speed, another media bomb exploded on online forums, transforming the incident from mere suspicion into an official scandal. It all started with a dramatic screenshot of a message posted by a netizen. "My mom just told me a shocking piece of drama. The CEO of my mom's company just went to Chengdu with his mistress and got filmed by a TikToker." This information instantly sent the online community into an uproar. The man's identity was no longer a mystery. It was Mr. Hu, the powerful CEO of a massive oil and gas conglomerate, who even held important positions within the government. But what left everyone completely stunned was the complicated relationship inside the company itself. Mr. Hu, his wife, and the mistress in the pink dress, Grace, all worked at the same oil and gas group. The leaked message from someone within their own circle confirmed a harsh truth. This was not just an ordinary affair, but an ethical scandal right in the workplace, where a top boss brazenly took a subordinate employee on a trip right under the noses of his wife and other subordinates. The exposure happened so fast that Mr. Hu had no time to react, turning the mistress's proud stroll into a verdict that ended his own career. When the identity of the woman in the pink dress was confirmed as Grace, netizens immediately flooded her personal page and discovered a treasure trove of Versailles literature, a style of showing off wealth while pretending to be modest or self-deprecating to attract attention. Grace never openly said she was rich, but every one of her posts made viewers' blood boil at the absurd level of luxury. She frequently posted statuses that stirred public outrage, such as, "I understand why people are jealous of me, because it seems everything I do comes too easily. The place where I start is a place others spend their entire lives striving just to reach." The bragging reached its peak when she posted photos of jewelry boxes filled with emeralds and diamonds, accompanied by a suffering complaint. "I didn't expect my jewelry box to fill up so quickly. I guess I'll have to buy a safe, give them a new home." Even right after graduating from university, Grace casually showed off a luxury apartment in Beijing, an asset that even people working tirelessly in New York or other megacities could hardly dream of. This Versailles lifestyle, combined with the fact that her real family background was nowhere near as wealthy as it appeared, led netizens to believe that every diamond and every square meter of Beijing real estate was obtained through a special relationship with the powerful CEO, turning her into the #1 target of public outrage. When public opinion began to question how a young woman who showed no signs of being an economic prodigy could be promoted again and again and always be kept by the powerful CEO's side at important meetings, they found the answer in her performance record. It turned out that Grace was not only skilled at showing off her wealth, but was also a so-called model employee whose contributions were enough to make anyone dumbfounded. Public outrage reached its peak when the real reason Grace had been voted Employee of the Year was leaked. She had made a major contribution by organizing 21 rounds of COVID testing for company employees. This work essentially amounted to arranging a room, putting up a notice at the entrance, and marking off the names of people who had finished testing, a level of administrative work so simple that even an intern could have done it well. This revelation became a bitter joke on social media. People mocked the situation, saying that while thousands of other employees worked themselves to the bone, contributing their intelligence and sweat, Grace only needed to put up notices and take good care of the boss to stand at the pinnacle of her career. The title of Outstanding Employee was no longer a badge of honor, but ironclad evidence exposing Mr. Hu's blind favoritism and injustice, confirming that every step of her promotion ladder had been built on a murky relationship rather than real ability. After the video and the evidence of abnormal promotions were exposed, pressure from public opinion forced the oil and gas conglomerate to act immediately. In a very short time, the official verdict was handed down. Mr. Hu was dismissed from his position as CEO, expelled from the party, and stripped of all leadership roles. The company announced that he had seriously violated principles of ethics and integrity by abusing his position for personal purposes. However, while the powerful CEO's career turned to dust, a bizarre economic phenomenon erupted from the ashes of the scandal. The pink silk spaghetti strap dress Grace wore in the clip suddenly became the most sought-after item in the entire country. Netizens gave it sarcastic nicknames such as the mistress dress or the CEO toppling dress, joking that simply wearing it could make a high-ranking leader lose his job in an instant. The power of drama transformed an ordinary fashion item into a terrifying commercial phenomenon. Sales of the dress on Taobao skyrocketed from just a few dozen pieces a month to more than 4,000 pieces per day. At its peak, during a single live stream by the shop selling this dress, they raked in an astonishing figure, more than 15 billion VND. This was perhaps the most unprecedented plot twist of all, an affair scandal inadvertently becoming the most successful marketing campaign of the year, turning the pink dress into a symbol of the collapse of power. While the storm of public opinion was still at its height, Grace, instead of choosing silence and remorse, decided to use her notoriety as a springboard into a professional streaming career. She began appearing in live stream sessions, openly admitting that she had undergone cosmetic surgery and even provoking netizens by claiming she would teach everyone how to become like her. Grace seemed to believe that she had become a new icon and could continue her lavish lifestyle by feeding off the crowd's curiosity. But she was wrong. Because the incident involved figures within the government and raised serious suspicions of corruption as well as a decadent, ostentatious lifestyle, the Chinese authorities officially stepped in. Right in the middle of a live stream, while Grace was busy interacting with thousands of viewers, all of her social media accounts were permanently wiped out in an instant. Every live streaming platform banned her, turning the oil tycoon's mistress into a name erased entirely from the internet. The ending of this drama was a chain collapse. The CEO lost his position, the mistress was completely blacklisted, and even the fashion street in Chengdu was ordered by authorities to ban free filming and photography to prevent similar scandals. The only winner in this entire saga, ironically, was the Taobao shop selling the pink dress. Grace proved a bitter truth. You can become famous because of a dress, but you cannot use notoriety to buy back your career and dignity once you have crossed the boundaries of ethics and the law. The scandal involving Mr. Hu and Grace was not merely a noisy affair drama, but in essence a direct collision with the red lines of social governance and political discipline under the strict policies of the Chinese party and government today. At a time when Beijing is intensifying its Tigers and Flies anti-corruption campaign, the fact that a state-owned enterprise executive holding an important position like Mr. Hu openly indulged in a degenerate lifestyle, using public funds to support a mistress and manipulating promotion policies for subordinates, became a thorn that had to be pulled out immediately to safeguard the credibility of the system. The Chinese government is not only punishing adultery, it is also enforcing the policy of common prosperity, which is extremely hostile toward the Versailles literature lifestyle, the flaunting of luxury assets and ostentatious, opaque displays of wealth represented by grace, because it breeds deep resentment among the working class and runs counter to the values of social fairness. The authorities' swift move to completely blacklist Grace from the online sphere and erase Mr. Hu's career was a blunt, unmistakable message about controlling official ethics and internet culture. The government will not tolerate any individual exploiting scandals for commercial gain or challenging traditional moral standards. Even the subsequent tightening of filming and photography rights in bustling urban areas demonstrated a hard-line approach to managing public spaces, aimed at curbing the fame at all costs trend, widely regarded as toxic and corrosive to the ideological values that the country has been painstakingly working to uphold.
We need that money now, Sarah.
Please, honey, we're desperate. I
told you, I can't just hand over that kind of cash.
October in Ohio. The air had begun to carry the dry, biting chill of the coming winter. Emma, 17, stepped off the school bus, her legs aching after a shift at the local bakery. In the pocket of her jacket were $60 in cash. For a typical American teenager, that might have meant a movie night or a new video game. For Emma, it was the electric bill, so her father wouldn't lose his temper tonight. As soon as she turned onto the walkway leading to the rental house at 142, Emma sensed something was wrong. The front door was unlocked. That simply didn't happen in this neighborhood. She stepped inside. The house felt so empty, it was as if you could hear dust falling. The worn sofa in the living room was gone. The old TV that was always tuned to sports had vanished too. Emma ran upstairs, her sneakers pounding against the hardwood floor in sharp echoes. Her parents' bedroom? Empty. Michael's room, her older brother's. Nothing left but a few scraps of trash on the floor. They had moved out. No argument beforehand, no warning signs. They were gone as if they had never lived there at all. Emma went back to the kitchen. On the spotless countertop, a yellow post-it note stood out like a scar. "You'll figure it out." No love you, no forwarding address, no emergency phone number. Just 6 words. Everything her family left behind after 17 years of her being the good kid, the one who handed over her paychecks to cover her father's gambling debts and did her brother's homework for him. Emma didn't collapse in tears. She stood there, staring at the note, and realized a brutal truth. In her parents' eyes, she wasn't a person, she was a debt, and one they had just decided to erase to lighten their load. She clenched the $60 in her pocket. It was all she owned in the world. 3 days later, reality knocked on the door in the form of the landlord. "Your dad canceled the lease and took the deposit back last week, Emma," he said, a cheap cigar dangling from his hand. "You've got 24 hours to get out before I call the cops to evict you." Emma didn't beg. She understood how the game worked in America. No money, no rights. She stuffed a few clothes into a backpack, grabbed her notebook, folded the cruel yellow note into her pocket, and walked out. After 2 restless nights sleeping at a gas station, Emma found her way to a storage facility on the outskirts of town. She used $50 to rent a 5-by-5-foot unit. No windows, no electricity, but it had a lock, and right now, that lock was the only thing that gave her a sense of safety. The first night in Unit 402, Emma curled up inside an old sleeping bag, surrounded by thick darkness. She heard the footsteps of other homeless people passing by outside. Every sound made her flinch, her hand gripping a small screwdriver for protection. She understood that if she didn't want to end up dead in some filthy alley, she had to become more practical, more ruthless than anyone else. The next morning, she went to the YMCA and paid $2 for a shower. Standing under the hot water, she looked at herself in the mirror. Dark circles under her eyes, but a spark burning inside them. She made herself a promise. They want me to figure it out? Fine. I'll figure it out so well they'll never dare look me in the eye again. Emma landed a night shift job at a diner that catered to long-haul truck drivers. Here, nobody cared who you were, only whether the coffee was hot and the pancakes came fast. It was there that she met Robert. Robert was the kind of American you don't see much anymore. Blunt, practical, and seasoned by life. He usually sat in the corner around 3 a.m., surrounded by thick stacks of financial newspapers. One night, as Emma was ringing up his bill, Robert slid the Wall Street Journal toward her. "Kid," he said, "how long do you plan on waiting tables just to pay rent on that storage unit?" Emma froze. "How did you know?" "You can smell storage units," Robert replied calmly. "They smell like desperation and rust. Listen, This society doesn't care how hard you work. It only cares whether you know how to make money work for you. Robert didn't give Emma money. He gave her knowledge. He taught her how to read balance sheets right there on the diner's receipt slips. Every dollar you earn, don't blow it all on bread. Buy ownership, he told her. Emma began using her meager tips to invest in fractional shares. She skipped meals to buy $5 worth of stock in a tech company. While other kids spent their money chasing short-lived fun, Emma was laying bricks, one by one, to build her own fortress. With encouragement and guidance from Robert, a regular older customer at the late-night diner, Emma came to understand that education was the only path out of sleeping in a rented storage unit. She enrolled in a public university, majoring in finance. To cover tuition and living expenses, she ran like a shuttle. Classes in the morning, unpaid accounting internships in the afternoon for experience, and back to the diner at night, serving until 3 a.m. Her sleep rarely lasted more than a few hours, stolen on buses or in quiet corners of the university library. After graduating, Emma was hired full-time by an import-export company in Chicago. With her sharp mindset and strong sense of responsibility, 8 years of steady contribution earned her a promotion to head of finance. At 29, Emma had built a stable life, a modest condo she was paying off, and a simple family car. She wasn't a celebrated millionaire, but she was proud of one thing above all. She was standing firmly on her own 2 feet without help from the people who had once turned their backs on her. That calm was shattered when her family accidentally saw her photo in a company newsletter honoring outstanding employees. Michael, Emma's older brother, showed up at the company lobby and waited for her. There were no loud scenes. Michael appeared worn down and claimed their parents were in serious financial trouble and needed her help. Emma agreed to meet the family at a small diner to listen, but instead of sincere concern, after 12 years of silence, she was handed a stack of unpaid bills and asked to co-sign a bank loan for their debts. Her parents cried, saying they had left years ago because of circumstances beyond their control, and now that she was successful, they expected her to fulfill her duty as a daughter. Still holding a trace of compassion for the people who had given her life, Emma decided not to abandon them entirely. Instead, she put in place a strict, controlled support plan. She used part of her savings to rent her parents a small, safe, fully furnished apartment in a quiet neighborhood, far from where she lived. She personally paid the rent and utility bills each month from her own account. For daily expenses, instead of handing over cash, she bought grocery gift cards and provided a modest weekly allowance, just enough to live on. She hoped that this stability would help them change their ways and appreciate what she believed was their final chance. Despite her demanding role as head of finance, Emma made time on weekends to visit the apartment she rented for her parents. She brought nutritious food, medicine, and quietly hoped that after all the turmoil, her family might finally find peace. One Friday afternoon, Emma got off work earlier than expected. She didn't call ahead, wanting to surprise them. As she reached the apartment, she noticed the door wasn't fully locked, just slightly ajar. She was about to push it open when she froze, hearing loud laughter and animated conversation inside. Energetic, clear voices, nothing like her father's usual frail, sickly tone. Emma stood motionless in the hallway, her heart tightening as she heard every word spoken by her father, mother, and brother Michael. Her father's voice was triumphant. "See, I told you. All it takes is pretending to be sick, on the verge of death, and that soft-hearted girl caves immediately. She's a head of finance now. Money's nothing to her. This apartment is just the first step. I'll force her to buy us a bigger house, one I can put up as collateral to get cash to recover from my last gambling loss." Her mother chimed in, exhausted but pleased. "You're right. I've been acting non-stop, coughing, pretending to be in pain all day. And Michael, don't forget to keep texting her, reminding her how miserable your wife and kids are. Make her feel guilty. That's how you squeeze money out of her." Michael burst out laughing. "Don't worry. I know her. She thinks she's smart, but she's still just a naive little sister we can spin around however we want. At this rate, we'll get back everything we lost without lifting a finger to work." The world seemed to spin around Emma. All the tears, the coughing fits, the remorse over the past months, it had all been a carefully staged performance to turn her into a gold mine for them to exploit. They didn't care about her at all. They were celebrating the fact that they had fooled her once again. Emma didn't storm inside to confront them. She quietly stepped back, her breathing heavy and bitter. She pulled out her phone, calm to an unsettling degree, and recorded their cruel conversation as evidence. After learning the harsh truth, Emma began implementing a total cutoff strategy. She stopped answering their calls. Whenever they reached out, she claimed she was in meetings or traveling for work. She hoped her cold distance would eventually make them give up.
But Michael's greed and her parents had no limits. One afternoon, Michael appeared in the company parking lot, blocking Emma's path as she was leaving work. He dropped the exhausted act and got straight to the point, demanding, "Emma, I'm planning to open a large car care center in the suburbs. I need $200,000 to buy equipment and rent the space. You're head of finance. That's just a few contracts for you. Give me the money. Consider it an investment in your own brother." Emma looked at Michael, the brother who had never worked hard a day in his life, always chasing quick gains, and coldly refused. "You have no experience and no business plan. I'm not throwing money out the window." Furious at being rejected, Michael exploded. The very next day, their parents showed up too, not to rein him in, but to pressure their daughter. "He's your brother," they said. "If he succeeds, it reflects well on you too. You make so much money. How can you be so stingy with your own family?" Emma stood her ground and firmly asked them to leave. When emotional manipulation failed, the family switched to public harassment. They knew reputation was everything to someone in finance. On Monday morning, as Emma arrived at work, she was horrified to see her parents and brothers standing right at the main entrance holding handmade signs. "Head of Finance Emma Vance is an ungrateful daughter who abandons her elderly parents. Success made her forget where she came from." Michael shouted through a handheld megaphone, fabricating stories about how Emma had stolen the family's savings to pay for her education. Employees in the building whispered amongst themselves, and clients began questioning the ethics of the person managing their money. Emma felt utterly humiliated as she was forced to enter the office through the back door, under the curious and judgmental stares of her colleagues. Exactly as she had expected, barely an hour later, the CEO's secretary knocked on her door. "Emma, the CEO needs to see you immediately." Inside her boss's quiet office, tension hung thick in the air. The CEO placed a security report on the desk inside. "Emma, I know you're an exceptional employee. Your competence is beyond question, but this company survives on client trust. What's happening outside is seriously damaging this office's reputation. The board is extremely concerned." He looked her straight in the eye, his voice firm. "I'm giving you two options. One, you completely resolve this family mess within 48 hours. Two, you accept an unpaid suspension until things calm down. We cannot allow an employee's private life to put billions of dollars of client assets at risk." Emma left the office, her fists clenched white. The career she had built with blood, sweat, and tears over the past 12 years was on the verge of collapse because of the very people she called family. She realized that if she didn't act decisively this time, they wouldn't just drain her, they would crush her all over again. The story was pushed to an even more bitter climax when her family didn't stop at harassing her workplace, but decided to launch a full-scale attack on her reputation in the public eye. Before Emma could even pursue legal action, she was stunned to see her parents' and brothers' faces appear on a reality TV show specializing in family scandals. Under the sensational headline, "Behind the success of a female finance executive lies the pain of abandoned parents," her family put on a flawless performance before millions of viewers. On air, Linda's eyes were swollen from crying, a handkerchief constantly wiping away tears. "We worked ourselves to the bone day and night to put her through school," she sobbed. "And once she became a department head, living in a nice place and driving a fancy car, she treated us like strangers. She kicked us out of the apartment she rented and cut off all contact, just because we're old now and no longer useful to her." Michael added fuel to the fire. "I gave up my own dreams, working odd jobs so my sister could study. Now I only asked her for a little capital to start a business and support my family, and she looked down on me, called me a gold digger." The internet exploded. Vile comments and insults flooded forums and social media. Emma was labeled a cold-blooded monster, an ungrateful child who bites the hand that fed her. Her reputation collapsed overnight. Clients began pulling their funds, unwilling to entrust their money to someone branded as morally corrupt. The next morning, when Emma arrived at the office, she found her desk sealed off. Her boss, his expression cold and disappointed, handed her an indefinite suspension notice. "Emma, the public backlash is too severe. We can't keep you on right now." Walking out of the building under the scorn of those around her, Emma spotted Michael standing on the street corner, wearing a smug smile as he spoke on his phone. He texted her, "See how powerful the media is? Transfer $500,000 and we'll go on TV to say it was all a misunderstanding. Otherwise, your career is over."
After witnessing her family's shameless performance on television, Emma didn't choose loud confrontation or public pleas. With the mindset of a finance professional, she understood that emotions can be manipulated, but numbers and hard evidence cannot. She decided to launch a quiet yet devastating counterattack using her Instagram account. She posted a slideshow with a short but provocative title, "Family or Hunters?" The first image left hundreds of thousands of followers stunned. It was a close-up photo of the fateful yellow note from when she was 17, bearing her mother's emotionless handwriting, "You'll figure it out." In the caption, Emma wrote, "My family went on television claiming they sacrificed everything to make me successful. The truth is, they abandoned me at 17 with $60 in my pocket and this wish for self-survival." These images were irrefutable evidence she had quietly preserved for 12 years. Photos of the rusted, cramped storage unit she once called home, worn student ID cards laid beside stacks of medical bills from the time she collapsed from exhaustion, working 3 jobs at once just to pay tuition. The final blow that completely turned public opinion was the last video in the post. It was an audio recording from the apartment Emma had rented for her parents, her father's voice ringing with triumph as he bragged about faking a heart condition to milk his wealthy daughter, followed by screenshots of Michael's extortion messages. "Transfer $500,000 or your career is finished." Within hours, the post racked up millions of views. The internet, which had been viciously attacking Emma just a day earlier, erupted in outrage at the greed and cruelty of the Vance family. Without giving them a moment to react, Emma moved swiftly and decisively, the American way, practical and unforgiving. She submitted all extortion messages to the Chicago Police Department, leading to Michael's arrest at his home while he was still fantasizing about the money he thought was coming. Next, she terminated the apartment lease and cut off all utility payments, returning her parents to the poverty they had earned for themselves. She also obtained a permanent restraining order, legally barring them from coming within 1 kilometer of her. When her parents later knelt in the lobby of her company building, wailing and begging for forgiveness, Emma felt nothing. She stood at the window of an upper-floor office, looking down, her face calm, as still as Lake Michigan in winter. She took out the yellow note from years ago, fed it into the paper shredder, and watched it turn into thin strips of waste. The past was over. The debt of blood ties had been paid in full. And from that moment on, Emma officially began a new life, one she owned completely, free and unbowed. 1 year after those devastating events, Emma refused to let the pain of her past break her. Instead, she turned it into strength to help others. She officially founded a nonprofit called the $60 Foundation. The name commemorated the last $60 she had in her pocket when her family abandoned her, and symbolized starting over from absolute zero. Rather than simply handing out cash, Emma built the foundation the way a financial professional would, practical and sustainable. She leased an old building and renovated it into safe, modest apartments for homeless teens and young people rejected by their families. There, they weren't just given a place to sleep, they received job training, financial literacy education, and college scholarship support. Emma visited the facility often, not as an elite finance executive, but as an older sister who would walk the same road. She told them, "Don't let anyone's note define who you are. The world may abandon you, but you are never allowed to abandon yourself." As for Emma's family, their lives collapsed completely after the scandal came to light. Michael was sentenced to prison for extortion. Her parents were forced to move into a distant suburban slum, surviving on minimal government assistance. With no gold mine left to exploit, they turned on each other, trading blame amid poverty and isolation. Occasionally, they tried contacting Emma through anonymous Instagram accounts, but message filters and court orders blocked every attempt. Emma no longer cared to know where they were or what had become of them.